Looking ahead into the summer holidays, our boys and girls have worked hard and they deserve a proper rest. So I know they're going to relish home cooking and the freedom of the holidays, so they should. But you might want to give some thought to making the most of their rest time. For instance, it's tempting once school ends to take the brakes off and remove all limits on, sleep and food and exercise, and particularly access to their mobile phones. And for some young people, that's absolutely fine. They're not addicted to them, or in some cases not even particularly interested in them, and they'll just naturally adopt a healthy pattern of usage. Unfortunately, though, that's probably not the typical pattern. We often talk about the dangers of young people being exposed to harmful material online, and rightly so. But even if a life online were entirely wholesome, I think we underestimate the harms caused by the sheer quantity of time they spend on their devices. So in the US, teenagers spend an average of 9 hours per day. That's an average on their devices. And good quality data is hard to find for the UK. It's probably somewhat lower, but I suspect not far off that. Now, 9 hours a day from the age of 13 in an average lifespan would mean spending over 25 years of your life online. And if you allow for sleep, then it's more like 35 years of your life. And the simple fact is, if you're spending that much time online, then many important things have been displaced. Teenagers have stopped doing things which are crucial to their social and emotional development. Things like hanging out with friends without adults, being physically active, spending time outside the family home on their own, getting a part-time job, all those normal things. But today I'm focusing on one thing in particular. Young people who spend hours every day online, and that's most of them, struggle to sustain regular reading. And it's getting dramatically worse, according to the latest report of the National Literacy Trust. That report shows that teenagers are reading less frequently, less well, and in fact, the majority of them aren't reading for pleasure at all. Teenagers' enjoyment of reading is now at record low levels. It's been getting worse for decades, and there's been a steep decline since 2016, and then a record drop over the last 12 months. Interestingly, the statistics noticeably worsen once children hit the age of 11, which happens to be the time on average that most of them get their first smartphone. And the statistics are worse still for boys. When you first read the report, it does look like there's one bright spot. The gap between rich and poor children has narrowed, except that it's a result not of the weaker readers improving, but the better readers from more advantaged backgrounds declining. We're levelling down, not up. So is this really a problem for Wickhamists? Yes and no. Clearly, we have highly able pupils from families that value reading. That's a big advantage, and I'm very grateful to you for your part in that. But do we also have pupils who will, if left to their own devices, spend far too much time online? Yes. And if they're doing this, it will almost certainly be at the expense of daily reading for pleasure. So, do I need to explain why reading is important? I'm assuming that you already have a clear idea of the benefits: vocabulary, general knowledge, writing skills, oral skills, empathy, emotional intelligence, not to mention the link with academic success. But you know this already. One clear benefit, largely ignored, is how reading supports attention span, and we need this more than ever. The most popular activity online is watching short-form videos like Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts, and the most popular format lasts 30 seconds. When it comes to sports training or music practice or learning a language, we know that practice makes perfect. If you spend 9 hours a day flicking from one thing to the next every 30 seconds, what have you just trained your brain to do? What will your powers of concentration be at the end of 9 weeks of holidays? Reading, on the other hand, develops extended focus and intellectual stamina, qualities that I'm convinced will be in such short supply in the future that even historically average levels will be akin to a superpower. For that reason alone, parents who want to support their children's personal and academic development can have a powerful impact by supporting their reading over the holiday. So how to do that? I have a lot to say on that, but here are 3 specific suggestions. The first is, make sure your child is reading daily. Why? Because like any other skill, you can lose fitness if you don't do it often, and nothing is fun when it's a slog. So little and often, aim for 20 minutes a day of reading, possibly in bed, but you might also find a regular slot in the day that works too. One of the most effective things you can do is sit down with your child at the same time and read your own book together. It's great role modelling, and if you do carve out that time in the middle of your busy day, I promise you will love it. The second suggestion builds on this by sharing the book as well. For the last few years, I've got to know the JP boys by having a book club in the Headmaster's reading hour on Saturday afternoons. We enjoy great discussions, and numerous parents have told me that they took the opportunity to read the book, in this case Clara and the Sun, alongside their son, which then led to rich discussions because they were sharing the same story at the same time. So a family book club gets the whole family reading the same book and engaging with the same ideas, which you've told me stimulates particularly lively discussions at home. And finally, pay attention to what your child is reading. As I told the Times last week, I don't accept that it doesn't matter what the child is reading. It does. And books for children and young adults are dumbing down. Recent analysis showed that current top-rated children's books are on average less than a third of the length of the classics. Publishers and authors describe using shorter chapters, simpler vocabulary and syntax, more illustrations even for older teens, sophisticated visual design to attract young readers, and they have to because our children's ability to focus has been shredded. But our pupils are capable of more, and we should be feeding them a proper literary diet. So if any of these ideas appeal, then with thanks to our head of English, Mr. Henfrey, we have some suggestions for you. For our younger years, The Heart is a Lonely Hunter by Carson McCullers, The Trial by Franz Kafka, The Inheritors by William Golding. For fifth book and above, Howard's End by E.M. Foster and The Return of the Native by Thomas Hardy. And I'll throw in two of my own suggestions, Anna Funder, All That I Am, or for a touch of non-fiction, 1947, When Now Begins, by Elizabeth Asbrink. I'm confident that all Wickhamists have the makings of a voracious reader. It's our job to create the conditions for those innate appetites to flourish and lasting habits to develop. But it's harder than it used to be, so I hope these suggestions are useful to at least some of you.